Am I too old to start singing? Am I too old to start taking voice lessons? We'll begin with me just burying the lead here. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Onyie and this is Onyie Sings. Welcome everyone. And I'm so excited to have you all here for today's lesson of sorts. Not really a lesson as much as I just wanted to talk to you all about something that I've heard is a concern for a lot of people who are interested in singing and might be hindering some people from even trying. And that's a big deal for me as a vocal coach and a voice teacher and a singer myself who is of a certain age. When I heard this, it piqued my interest, but I also really wanted to speak to it. I'd love to address the question of, am I too old to start singing? Am I too old to start taking voice lessons? We'll begin with me just burying the lead here. No, you are not too old to begin singing or begin taking voice lessons. Now stay on the video though. Don't switch off now that you have that answer, because I'd like to speak to the misconceptions as well as the fears a lot of people have. And I think I'm going to hit most of the ones that most people have. I even looked it up to see what are the usual suspects when it comes to why people think they can't start singing at an older age. And let me just say, I'm really excited to do this video. You're probably going to be able to notice throughout the video how passionate I am about this and how excited I am about this, because I love singing and I love teaching voice. I love teaching people how to sing. It's not that I don't believe that there is something that's supernatural and beautiful and metaphysical about singing. Of course, I'm an artist and I'm a person of faith, but I also understand that singing is a skill. It is a skill and it's technique, but just know that I'm really excited to hopefully give clarity to some of the misconceptions. So first of all, let me just say again, no, you are not too old to start singing or to start taking voice lessons. I want to also say congratulations, because how exciting. I'm sure you've wanted to sing for a very long time, and for whatever reason, life, your other pursuits, other priorities, other things have led you not to try to do it. Maybe even some of the things we're going to talk about today. But you've now made the decision, and now I'm telling you, you don't have an excuse, or hopefully you won't by the end of this video, to not try. And so I'm so excited for you. Like, how exciting to get to try something that might be a passion of yours, might have been something that has been a very quiet dream that you felt for whatever reason you couldn't tell others or you couldn't be honest about, or maybe you weren't even honest with yourself about. But now we're going to address it and we're going to treat it seriously. And I mean, not seriously like it's such a serious thing to be a singer, but I want to take your concern seriously because I want you to seriously pursue this. Try it. You may as well, But yeah, congratulations for dipping your toe in something that you've likely been interested in doing for many, many years and have just needed a push. Hopefully, I'm that push. I also want to say it does take a bit of courage to pursue this, to really take yourself seriously, especially when you're of a certain age, when you're pursuing quote unquote dreams or things that people might think of as flights of fancy. It takes a lot of courage actually to lean into it. How awesome. Congrats and way to go. So now we're going to deal with the fears and misconceptions you may have about singing at whatever age you are, or to start taking voice lessons at this age. You are born with a good voice or you're not. Now, some people do know from an early age that they have a delightful voice or an aesthetically pleasing voice. Often that's because people have told you, people have asked you to sing for them, whatever it is, but you know from an early age that you have a good voice. But there are many people who have great voices who have no idea that they do. Oftentimes because they don't sing, they don't put it out there because why would you until somebody says that you should? I know it seems like, why would you assume that you can't sing if you never sing? But I think it's Also, this idea that it's a gift that happens and is given to certain people and not all. So yeah, if you're thinking from that place, you're gonna assume, so that's not me. Because if I could sing, it would come naturally to me if I could sing. And we're gonna talk about that. Now, one thing that I always found kind of amazing is that I teach, voice, and I teach a lot of singers. Like I have a lot of people who are students of voice, who are going to college for musical theater, going to college for music, are in bands. They're already technically singers. But when we work together, especially the first time we begin working together, more often than not, I'll discover that they don't know their full range. And that to me is a big deal. If you're a singer and you don't know the full range of your voice, then there's a whole part of your voice you're not exploring and not getting to play with and not getting to utilize as a singer, which is not okay as far as I'm concerned as a vocal coach. But that speaks to the fact that even somebody who sings, quote unquote, for a living or is going to school for singing, is making a profession of singing, they too may not fully know the potential of their voice. This is why professional singers take voice lessons, because there are things that we just may not know unless somebody else, specifically a professional, tells us. And so please know that there are even singers who go to school for this who also don't know what they're truly capable of. So there might be a chance that you don't know what you're truly capable of yet. Singing is a skill. It is a skill set. And so that means it can be learned. So please understand that you can learn to sing, even if you've never sung before, even if you don't think that you can sing. You can always learn how to sing. There is technique to singing. Now, what you might be thinking of is aesthetics. When it comes to the aesthetics and subjective nature of voice and singing and even being a fan of singing, that's something we can't really do anything about, and that really isn't your concern. Your concern is that you want to sing, and you want to sing well, and there is a technique and skill to doing that. Now, if there are some people who love your voice and some people who don't, that's fine. I'm a professional singer as well, and there are people who do not like my voice. There are people who do not like my speaking voice, you know what I mean? So there are aesthetic aspects to these things where that's just subjective, person to person. But am I technically a proficient vocalist? Absolutely. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to love my voice. And that doesn't mean that if everybody doesn't love my voice, that I'm not a good singer. I hope that makes sense, because I'm sure you can think of vocalists who are technically great singers who you yourself are not really a fan of. Does that mean they're not good? No, it just means I'm myself not really into listening to them sing. That is a subjective opinion, but that doesn't mean that that person now is not a good singer or cannot sing. So please understand that you might have a voice that some people in your own family are like, no, thank you. But then you're humming to yourself or you're singing around some random place and some stranger walking by is like, your voice. You might decide that your family takes precedence over the stranger, or you might decide that stranger knows what they're talking about. But again, that is subjective. I don't want you to decide not even to try because of the assumed aesthetic or because of subjective opinion. Aesthetic is going to be subjective, but technique is technique. Another fear or misconception is you needed to start young. Let's begin with, unlike a lot of movement-based art forms, youth is not a necessity for singing or for the voice. I think many of us think of this the way we think of things like ballet and art forms like that, where you want to start learning at 2 years old. Or when you hear about somebody who's amazing, they say, I started at 5. And so I think we also think that's the same for the voice. And there is some legitimacy to that, but for the most part, no, that's not quite the same when it comes to the voice, and I'll explain why. The voice matures like the body matures. So as you age, your voice ages. So as I can see it, the greatest pro to learning how to sing early is just getting the experience in your body early, understanding certain skill aspects of it early, understanding techniques like breathing or learning warm-ups and vocalises, vocal exercises. That stuff, if you start getting on it early, means there's a better chance that you won't pick up bad habits. But even with that, when it comes to the aging voice, your voice is maturing. And when your voice matures, that means the instrument is essentially changing. So as that instrument is changing, as you age, that brings new obstacles to the voice, even when you've been singing for a very long time, even when you're a professional. As you age, you start learning new things that you then have to contend with that become new hindrances and new obstacles that just come with age. For instance, one thing I always like to tell people because it always blows people's minds, even singers. For women, we do not come into full vocal maturity until you're around 30 to 40 years old. Yes, you are hearing me correctly. Our voices do not come into full vocal maturity till you're around 30 to 40 years old. If you are an opera fan, you may notice that sometimes you'll see an opera where it's like Romeo and Juliet is a 35-year-old woman. Now, you know, in the actual story of Romeo and Juliet, and when you see plays or when you see musicals dealing with Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is usually around 18 to 20 maybe, and 20 is like leaning a bit on the older side of a Juliet, but in opera, nope, 35, 30. And that's because opera is very, very, very strict about the best voices. And when are you in your best voice as a young woman? 30. So we're not putting a 20-year-old who's still kind of figuring their voice out in the role of Juliet. We're putting a 30-year-old who's now coming into full vocal maturity as our Juliet. And I hope that makes sense. I know that blew my mind many moons ago when I first learned it. And truly, the vocal pinnacle for most voices, male or female, is 30 and older. We live in a society where we usually think somehow that 30 is the beginning of the end and where you start depreciating as a human being. But in voice, it actually is the beginning of your true voice, of your best voice. Also, something worth noting is that lower voices and darker voices take even longer to fully mature. Now, I know I've spoken about the fact that there are few true altos in the world. Most women are sopranos. They just maybe have the access to lower notes. And so if you're like in choir, for instance, you're gonna sing alto if you have a lower extension, like you can hit lower notes, or you have great musicianship and can carry your part very well. But in real life, essentially, most of us are sopranos, different versions of sopranos, but sopranos. However, if you are a darker soprano or a lower voice at all, you're going to mature a little bit slower, a little bit behind the higher, lighter voices. That's also something worth noting. That way you don't hold yourself to this unreasonable expectation that literally goes against the physics and biology of the voice. Also, another cool thing about being an aged singer is that you're likely going to pick up some of these concepts a little faster than you would have when you're younger. Something that we learn over time is how to learn. That might sound kind of crazy, but truly, there are aspects to strategies for learning that you pick up just over the experience of being in school for many years and learning things for many years. So now, as you're learning this new thing of singing, now you know how to learn for yourself, especially. Like, you'll know I'm really good when I do these particular tasks, or if I approach something with this mentality, or if I write things down, or if I take recordings, or whatever the thing is that is particular to your style of learning. You know that by a certain age, and so that makes it easier for you to pick up new concepts. Sometimes I even have students who will tell me, here's what I need you to do. This is the way I will pick this up faster. And that comes from experience learning. Now, our next misconception or fear of sorts is, yes, I want to learn how to sing well, but I don't want to be a professional. So I don't know if I really want to invest in voice lessons, invest in learning how to sing. So yes, it is an investment. It is an investment to even start learning how to sing for free. because it takes time and it takes patience and energy. So there is an investment to learning how to sing at your age. And there might be an investment if you decide to go one step further and take voice lessons and get a vocal coach. Hi! But it is worth it as far as I'm concerned, as long as you are thoughtful about how you budget yourself to invest in your voice, i.e. being aware of what kind of time you have to invest, how much energy you have to invest, how much patience you have to invest, and then if you do want to take voice lessons, what kind of financial budget you're working with. So as long as you're being realistic with yourself and being considerate of your lifestyle and what your priorities are, it is a worthwhile investment, because finally you'll know if you can sing, if you want to sing, if you enjoy singing. Sometimes you start learning this stuff and you realize, I have a passion for this. I didn't know I had a passion for this, or this brings me insane amounts of joy I had no idea I was capable of getting to. And what a wonderful thing to discover that this thing brings you an incredible amount of joy. Aren't we seeking joy so hard right now in this world and in this society and at this time and all those things? Isn't joy so valuable? And can you imagine discovering, especially at this age, because how often do we discover things anymore when you get to a certain age? Imagine having that discovery of something that brings you joy that you weren't aware of, and now you can pursue. You also want to be realistic with yourself about what your goal is when you start trying to sing or taking singing lessons or what have you. Because if you are understanding that I don't want to be professional, I just want to see if I can, and I just want to be good, I just want to sing well, then you want to keep that goal in mind as you pursue it. For instance, if your favorite singer is like Celine Dion or Whitney Houston or people like that, you want to be careful not to compare yourself to some of your favorite singers when you yourself are learning your voice. If we're deciding we don't want to be a professional, then it wouldn't make a lot of sense to compare yourself to a professional as you're learning how to sing. The better goal is to figure out what your natural voice is and the best version of your own voice. Another fear is that it takes too long to see or hear progress. Now, progress is inevitable as long as you practice and you're consistent. Truly. I know that's a big thing to say, that's a really strong statement, but as a voice teacher who's been teaching for over a decade, yes, if you practice and you practice consistently, you will see progress. Something as simple as learning how to breathe for singing can change your voice. And yes, there is a technique to breathing for singing. Even learning things like if you have certain amounts of tension when it comes to jaw tension, tongue tension, all these things that can really affect the literal quality and tone of your voice. As soon as you learn these things, your voice will change and you will see progress just from that understanding. So imagine if you get that understanding and then you practice and learn the new muscle memory of using your voice correctly and of using technique correctly. You will see progress and you will hear progress. Also, fear can get in the way of your vocal prowess. I've had students who had a ceiling they'd basically created for themselves because of fear, where they wouldn't go past a certain note because they assumed that their voice couldn't go that high or go that low. Now there's a whole chunk of their voice they're not getting to explore or use because of the fear that has created this ceiling. If you find out you have one of those ceilings and we break through that, you will see progress, and that progress will feel very quick, because you simply had a hindrance that was getting in the way of you fully understanding the potential of your voice. Technique and skill can break that ceiling. Also, like I said before, once you know what works for you when it comes to learning, when you know your learning style, which often when you get older you do understand that there are certain things you might pick up quickly simply because you know how to pick up things quickly now, and you understand the best way for you to learn a new concept. You might be thinking it's going to take a long time because learning takes a long time. But understand that there are concepts that you might pick up quickly that will progress you very quickly. Just give yourself a few weeks of taking voice lessons and see how you feel about it. You do not have to make a lifelong commitment or a financially heavy commitment to figure out whether or not this is something you really want to pursue. Give yourself a few weeks, try it out, see how it feels, see what you think, see how your teacher works for you or any number of things, and go from there. And then if you feel like, never mind, I'm glad I tried, but I'm not really into this, you can always decide not to do it anymore. And I would say if you're not seeing progress in a few weeks or getting any more understanding when it comes to vocalizing or singing, then there's a chance you might want to find another teacher or a different program. This is low stakes for the most part. It's just figuring out if you enjoy this. So if after a few weeks you realize, not so much, then you can just decide never mind. All right, so those are our main fears and misconceptions, and hopefully I've dealt with one or two, or hopefully all of the ones that you might have had, and maybe you're now thinking about, yeah, I just might take voice lessons, or I just might try to start singing. So now I'd like to give you some tips for elders. When I say elders, I mean, I even have seen on the interwebs people at the age of 30 saying, I don't know if it's too late for me to start trying to sing at 30. And now if you've watched this whole video up to this point, you know that's ludicrous. It is not too late. In fact, it's the perfect time to start singing. Firstly, I'd like to say, have patience as a novice. So what that means is that when you're an adult, especially when you're an adult, it's been probably a while since you've been new at something, since something's been new to you, or you've had to learn a new concept. And so it is a bit of a struggle sometimes to learn how to be new again, to learn how to learn again, and be patient with yourself as you pick up this new concept. I know I personally have a hard time oftentimes with new things at my age because it always feels like I'm so smart. I've been around long enough and I have enough experience at life. I should be able to just get this. Please have patience with yourself as an adult who is learning something and new at something for the first time in probably a long time. Yeah, you're learning how to learn again. And even though you probably know how to use strategies to learn things and pick up concepts faster, you also have to kind of deal with your pride and deal with the understanding that, oh yeah, I'm not going to be good at this immediately. And it's been a long time since I've not been good at something I was doing. Another part of being new at something is you're going to probably have to break old habits, and you definitely have to be patient with yourself as you break old habits. And a lot of those habits you didn't know were bad habits before you started learning how to sing properly. You're going to have to break this habit and then give yourself room to pick up these new ones. So again, it takes quite a bit of patience and understanding. Give yourself room to grow. And another tip for elders is be realistic. Make sure that you're aiming to be the best you, where you are, that you can be. Your vocal folds, your larynx has a lot to say about what your voice is doing and what your voice can do. And so the health of your larynx also has a great deal to say about that. So if you've lived a life with a lot of unhealthy choices and possibly many vices, things like that are normal to a lot of adults, please understand that that will also affect the health of your voice because of your age, because again that you possibly better understand how to progress, how to learn. Then you will still see those bad habits and those things rectified a lot more quickly than you picked them up. So do give yourself that. Know that there's room to grow rather quickly, despite the fact that you've lived a life that's been negating your ability to have a healthy voice. Because now, if you start picking up the new good habits and the new good techniques and taking care of yourself and taking your voice seriously and the care and the health of your voice seriously, you'll see changes that are happening a lot more quickly than you would assume after a lifetime of doing the opposite. Also, a lifetime of poor vocal technique because you literally didn't know what vocal technique was will also affect you at this point. But again, that comes back to just having to break old bad habits and learn new ones, and then having the patience to pick up these new habits and make them your new way of singing. All right, so in conclusion, yes, Take voice lessons, start singing. Yes, 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 whatever age you are. And yes, I am saying whatever age you are. I could be talking to a 30-year-old right now. I could be talking to a 50-year-old right now. Yes, take voice lessons, start singing. You may as well feel it out. And then again, of course, if you're not into it after a while, just stop. But you may as well see if it's something that you may fall in love with. And again, it may bring you unbelievable amounts of joy. And I'm going to plug myself real quick here and just say I'm a voice teacher. I'm a vocal coach. So feel free to reach out if you're interested in taking lessons with me. I teach on Zoom exclusively. So I'm online. So no matter where you are, you can work with me. But also I specifically take pride in nurturing and encouraging my students. I have a great deal of patience. I think it's something of a gift with the calling of teaching. I also have a great deal of knowledge as a vocal coach and a voice teacher. My foundation is vocal pedagogy, and as a singer myself, I have a lot of sympathy and empathy when it comes to the voice and learning concepts of the voice. So definitely please reach out if you're interested in taking lessons with me. I would love to work with any of you. And I teach anywhere from beginner to professional voice. And no matter how old you are or how much of a novice or beginner you are, I would love to teach you. So definitely reach out. Comment below if this has been encouraging for you, or if you have any other questions about singing and starting at this age, and whatever I need to talk to you about that will help you, go for it. Thank you for joining me today. I am so thrilled about your new journey into singing, and please feel free to check out my voice lesson playlist if you're interested in more tips and tricks at your fingertips. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out so much. I am such a small YouTuber. Feel free to check it out. I think I'm at 250 now, which is kind of a big deal because I wasn't for the longest time, but I would really love to get up to, I don't know, 300 this year. That'd be crazy. But also I would just love to reach more people and be able to share more information and more knowledge with more people who are interested in voice. Thank you so much for coming by today. I do hope that anyone who had fears and misconceptions that were stopping them from trying to sing are now feeling encouraged and energized and curious to try. Thank you again, and see you next time. Bye! Okay, we're gonna go one at a time, so get ready to...